is up, everyone? JD here, coming at you with another full review video. Today I'm actually going to be reviewing my Kizer Sheepdog. This one here is the Blade HQ exclusive. It comes with a 3.3 inch 10V coated steel blade. It also has the 4.39 inch American micarta. The overall length on this is 7.7 inches and the claimed weight is 4.2 ounces. And we are going to give that a quick check and just verify that weight. Kizer is usually pretty good with their weight, so 4.2 ounces, dead on. Have not weighed it before then, so really good to see. What I'm going to do really quick before I get into the full review is actually do some size comparisons. Then we'll talk about some comparable knives, and then we'll finally give you my thoughts and impressions in hopes that it helps you if you're considering this knife or just reviewing it to see if you have any interest in the knife. First up is going to be the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. This one here is the DLT trading exclusive. Oh, I apologize. I just realized everything's a little low on the screen there. This one here is the DLT trading exclusive with the coated 20CV blade. Really well done G10 and a very comparable knife. So we'll bring it back out here in a little bit so that we can actually talk about this one a little bit more. A larger knife from Spyderco is going to be the Spyderco Shaman. This one here is the entry-level S30V variant coated blade. I have swapped out the factory scales for the fat carbon dark matter scales made by Spencer over on Instagram. You can find him as Carbodize. He is doing these by hand and the fitment is really nice. I did on this one get rid of all of the holes and got it in the skinny scales. I think this is a really good size EDC. It really does, in my opinion, carry well, has very good ergonomics, and I think that it's actually a good comparison between the Yojimbo 2 and the Sheepdog. Depending on the aesthetics piece for you, you may lean towards the Kizer if you don't like a Yojimbo, but the ergos on the Yojimbo are really solid. Next up, I'm going to bring out my crossbar lock knives. First is going to be the Benchmade Bug Out. This one here, also the factory S30V, the full-size variant. I do have the titanium scales on it, but those scales do not add any length or girth. They are slightly contoured, but it's barely additional contouring, and it's still very lightweight. Next up, I'm going to bring out the Sig K320 made by Hogue. Again, you can see this is really kind of more closely aligned with the Sig and less like the Bug Out. It's not quite that thin slicey EDC, but it's not super large or intrusive to carry. So as you can see here, when you get it really close to the Sig, you can see the Sig just a little bit longer, but still has that similar handle length on it. So really good comparison there as well, but that one won't be back out for a comparable knife. The blade shape on that for me just too different for that. And I think also the intent. I think Kizer with the Sheepdog is looking more at the EDC oriented crowd with this one, where I think the Sig's a little bit more heavy duty use. Next up, we're going to bring out the budget knives. First up is going to be the Kubi Royal, also known as the KU321. This one here is a little bit shorter because it is a sub 3-inch blade. So a really good reference if you're familiar with the Royal, what a full-size Thumbhole Kizer Sheepdog looks like. It's not a whole lot bigger. And lastly, it's going to be the Sativian ST122. This one here is over 8 inches, so it is longer, but it is much more slender in profile. All right, so that's it for the comparison knives. We are going to go ahead and get these out of here, and we're going to go through some of my comparables really quick. And we're going to start by bringing out the Yojimbo 2. If you are familiar with the Yojimbo, I do give that reference. I do feel like this is more Wharncliffe and this is more modified sheep's foot. Again, I think they're really close in carry. Another knife that I have in my inventory that I think compares really well is going to be the Concept Convict. This one here does actually have a true sheep's foot on it, but it does have that, I'm sorry, I keep bumping these around. It does have that more similar type of carry in my opinion. Obviously, the Sheepdog has more presence with the blade than either one of these, but these are really going to be the most comparable knives that I have. One that also is fairly close, but a much smaller version, a much lighter version is actually going to be the Urban EDC Supply F5.5. So this is kind of, you know, steel micarta, more Warren Cliffy-ish type blade shape because it comes up. It does round up at the tip and gives you a little bit more of that puncturing tip on it than the Convict did. Convict is definitely geared more towards a utility type of duty, in my opinion. All right, so these are all of the comparable knives that we're going to bring out today. Let's go ahead and dive into my thoughts and impressions of the Sheepdog. So I did have the actual original, the very first version with the smooth micarta on it, and it had the 154 cm. It was stone washed. I really loved that knife. I liked it a lot. What interested me into upgrading was the change to the American micarta, which is a little bit more textured, has a little bit more grip to it. I also wanted to try 10V. I've not had one yet, and it was a Blade HQ exclusive. So if it really is their exclusive, you're not going to find this anywhere else at any other dealer. So it does make it a little bit more special than your typical run-of-the-mill Thumbhole variant. But that variant that I had previously was a really good knife. I really did like it. I will say also, I'm not quite sure if 154 has, if it's a denser steel and has a little bit more weight to it, but it was 4.4 ounces. This one's 4.2. So I don't know what they changed other than the steel to cause that weight to go up. Since I've gotten it, I actually did do a stone wash, and I have the hardest time getting this to, I'm cleaning off the blade, getting this to show up on the camera for everyone to see. In person, you can really see the stone pelting, and then you can really see the lines here where it's kind of worn it down on the actual knife itself, and then you can really get a really good sense of the worn down on the pocket clip as well. Looks a little bit better in person than it does on camera. So from an ergonomics perspective, still really good. I really like the hand position on this. It's very comfortable to hold. It is surprisingly thin behind the edge, so it does break down that cardboard really well, and it does a good job keeping it in place. What I found with 10V is a little bit tougher to sharpen, but it seems to be holding an edge pretty well. And since I've stone washed this, going through some cardboard, really it just kind of wipes away. As long as there's no residue from any type of tape or anything on there, I'm really finding that just wiping it away kind of does the trick. Now I do have the CJRB out here as well, and you can really get a sense. You see the scarring on there depending on what it is that I'm doing with the CJRB. You're starting to see it on the coating. The coating on the Kizer a little bit better. I actually did have to do this stone wash for like 30 minutes to get it where I wanted it. Probably could have gone a little bit longer, but I really wasn't trying to break the coating down that much. I think it looks a little bit more matted now than it did when I first got it. It was more like this pivot here, and it was a little more satiny and a little less matte. Thumbhole on this works really well. Detent feels really heavy on this model. I don't feel like the one that I picked up with the 154 cm was quite so heavy. And I really do like the sounds on this one. I know that it has like a, I guess it would be like a rattle sound to it when it locks in, but I think that's just because of the thinness of the liners, and then the insulation on my micarta is not that heavy. Let's see, it sounds. So really nice. I like these. The thumb hole on this works really well with the thumb flick or the reverse flick, so really good. I did force patina the micarta, so it's not quite this dark when you get it. And I did use the mineral oil, and I let it dry really well, and I dabbed it all the excess off after leaving it on for about 10 minutes, and it came out really nice, and it does not feel slick at all. I do not feel any of the oil or any residue in the micarta, and again, it does have a little bit more texturing, so it's really nice. I do like it a whole lot. Really thin for such a big blade, and again, just a joy to carry. Still a very recommendable knife. I think even if you're getting the 154 cm, or if you're getting like one of the Blade HQ exclusives with the 10V, I think you get phenomenal value for your money here. Under $100 for all of the action, fit, finish, everything about this knife I really do like, and I can highly, strongly recommend this knife for anyone that might be, you know, attracted to it. It is a very different style pocket knife, but again, with the thumb hole, it is much improved than it did when it had the flipper tab coming out of the back. So it does make this a little bit easier to carry, and again, they did make it nice and thin to offset the fact that it is a little bit wider than maybe a typical blade shaped pocket knife, or typical knife shaped pocket knife, say like what I brought out earlier, like the Sativian. This is more your typical or what is most common for a knife shape, in my opinion. So a very different thing. I think it is a very attractive knife, and I do really like it. If you enjoyed this review, I know it is a re-review, but again, the 10V, I just wanted to get some impressions on it, and I'm probably going to have to do a long-term review. I'm probably going to take this back over to the work sharp and just fine-tune the edge a little bit. It does seem to, let's see, I think I have some thin paper over here. It does seem to be at a good place, but I think I could probably just tune it up a little bit more, like right there towards the edge. It starts to feel a little bit more tear. I don't know if you can tell in the paper. Feels like it's a little bit more of a tear towards the end. So I think maybe just taking it across either the ceramic rod or maybe possibly just taking it over some leather just to kind of smooth that out. But it feels really good, and it takes a really sharp edge. Thanks for tuning in today. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, leave a like. It helps me out on YouTube. Consider subscribing. I'd love to have you follow along. Thanks for all of your support, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.